Hi, I just picked up this book from my local library entitled Nobody's Perfect by David Elliott, illustrated by Sam Zupardi. It is in the genre of a picture book because the pictures are really what carry the book. So the book starts off with a little boy who's sitting on his stairs, kind of upset that nobody's perfect. This is kind of a revelation to him, I think. And if you can see from the pictures from the first page, the drawings aren't perfect. I am pretty sure that nobody has a head that big. And nobody has skinny little lines for feet. So he starts off with going through all the characters in his life. And of course, being a kid with siblings, he's going to start with his sibling, right? Because kids are usually rivals with their siblings and notice their imperfections first. So here's his little sister, Gigi. She's not perfect either. Look at the lines. Look at how he has like 5 hairs on his head and he's supposed to be, I would guess, around 6 or 7. Not accurate. Not perfect. She's not perfect. She's loud. Really loud. Look at the illustrations there. It's just great. I love how even the drawings of the table and her little high chair here, they're lines everywhere. They're not smooth and clean, crisp lines of perfection. They are kind of erratic, but you get the point. And the use of color for her anger, I love it. The red, that very much shows that she's probably a difficult baby to live with. Maybe even in the terrible twos. Then he goes on to mention his friend Jack. Jack is a show-off. And as you can see, the illustrations, Jack is not perfect either. And he's kind of ticked off in this picture. He's like, he is not perfect. Then he goes to his mom. She is stubborn. He doesn't like that about her. And he tries to say how his mom put him in timeout because it was the dog's fault and it wasn't him. It doesn't really say exactly how it was the dog's fault. But then he realizes something pretty big. I'm not perfect either. And it shows a picture of his very messy room before he cleans it. And this is his room after he cleans it. It got worse. And once again, with the illustrations, we see lines everywhere. We see colors everywhere. We see just plain chaos. As some of us kind of feel, I think, sometimes about ourselves. I know I do. And he justifies it. Sometimes I have to be messy. But then he has another moment of clarity and he realizes, you know what? Sometimes it's fun when Jack shows off. Even though Jack's imperfection is that he shows off, it's kind of fun. And sometimes I'm happy when Gigi is loud. There's his sister banging on pots and pans and he's joining with her and having a great time. So he's starting to realize that imperfections aren't always that bad and there's good to be found in them. And even his mom isn't so bad. Sometimes she really does listen. I think that's a good one for us parents to remember when we're hard on ourselves. So he's thinking about all these things and realizing, you know what? It's not so bad that people are imperfect. Because, and this is my favorite part, sometimes they come close. And I'm not going to read the last page for you because I want you to go pick it up for yourself, but I would highly recommend it. This is a great book. So as I said, the genre of this book is a picture book because although the text is simplistically compelling, the illustrations carry most of the story. You could, of course, read this without illustrations, but they really make the book. You could even have this book without the text, and it would carry on just fine, I think. So the pictures accurately portray the mood that the author is trying to create. The theme, of course, is imperfection. And as you can see with the illustrations, the lines are not perfect. Look really closely. In fact, they are all over the place. One of my favorite pictures is of his room, and I'll show that one more time. So already we can see, if you look even at the treasure drawers here, the lines are not perfect. They're not crisp. They're not clean. They're kind of hanky-panky all over the place. You get the gist of what is going on in the picture, but it's erratic. And you especially notice how he's not perfect when this is his attempt at cleaning the room. So clearly it shows that when he's supposed to be cleaning his room, he's not. And he's messing around and playing with toys. He's reading a book here when he should be cleaning his room. I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you parents out there. I know it does to me. So there's books and toys and sports equipment everywhere in his room. And then, so the illustrations perfectly showcase the storyline and characterization. If we look at the characters, they are drawn imperfectly too. No one has heads that big. No, and the lines, of course, were all over. They weren't clear and concise. It was definitely clear that the artist was trying to convey that the characters themselves were not perfect. Their surroundings weren't perfect. In fact, there was nowhere to be seen that wasn't perfect. Even in scenes where they were outside, things weren't perfect there either. Let's see if I can find a picture there. As we see a picture of his friend, even outside is not perfect. The trees, I don't think trees really look like that. The ground, the horizon here, there were kind of lines everywhere. The colors were great. They were really captivating. And they went along perfectly, I thought, as well. But even the outside is not perfect. So basically, nowhere in this boy's whole world is there anything that's perfect. So I like the illustrations, how they draw each character imperfectly. And in so doing, they avoid any stereotypes. I love how they didn't just make all the girls look perfect in the story, or all of the boys, him and his friend, look perfect. Everyone was equally imperfect. I thought that was great. And so, yeah, I think kids will really love this book. It's a simple read, but it gets the point across. I read this to my own kids, and they thought it was great. It's simple and it's honest because it shows how no one is alone in being flawed. Kids, adults, boys, girls, we're all flawed. It also shows how even though nobody's perfect, that's okay. And because there's a whole lot of good in all of us, and that our imperfections should be overlooked as much as possible, which is the very worthwhile theme of this book. So definitely check it out. So my purpose in sharing this book is to encourage kids to not focus so much on people's negative qualities, especially their own. And my very favorite thing was when the boy realized this principle, and that people came close to perfection, even though they never attained it, but that was enough for him. And so it just kind of strengthened my resolve to make other people's and myself's imperfections enough for me. So check it out. Thanks.